Welcome to the Power of One. Today I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Autumn, and we're going to have a great show to offer resources for disabled humans. Welcome to the show, Dr. Autumn.
Hi there. Um, so I just want to acknowledge something first and foremost. Sometimes we are going to be using what they call identity first language, just as Melanie mentioned, disabled humans, disabled children, disabled adults, because that is the most preferred way of identifying. However, a lot of folks in the caregiving and service world use person first language. So they might say person with a disability. The thing that's right is the thing that a person prefers.
Thank you so much,
You
Dr.
are so
Autumn.
welcome.
Please tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. So I am a neurodivergent disabled human. Yay, hi, ADHD, and many other things. But I am lived experience in the field. I've been working in the disability world for over 20 years, and yet I haven't aged a day. Huh. And I started out really focusing on disability and sexuality as a concept to research and to really focus on. And that turned into forms of all human behavior and mental health. And of course, sexuality is a huge part of all of that. So I dabble in a little bit of everything in the behavioral health, mental health, sexuality world. And I teach other people to do this work as well.
I'm sure there are many services that are available for disabled humans. Can
Mhm.
we talk about those services, and are there age restrictions for some of the services that are available? Is it 18 that they can no longer receive services? Let's talk about the free services and the age that they're available up to or whenever.
Absolutely. So I think cost is probably the biggest piece for a lot of folks getting the services we need. If we could afford out-of-pocket services, anything and everything is available, right? So
Mhm.
what is available that is free or extremely low cost or part of service packages, which I'll talk a little bit about. So at birth, we have the availability of early intervention, birth to five services. If folks don't know what that is, quick Google search of your local early intervention offices will immediately take you to where you can sign up and learn more about those services. They can come into your home and we'll teach the families or caregivers how to best support those little humans and offer supports to the little humans themselves to do some role modeling, some practicing. And that's like the first intervention that you can get in the home. It's amazing because it works from everything from sitting and serving meals. Some people call it feeding. I like to call it serving because I think feeding is what you do to the fuzzy creatures and serving is what you do to humans.
Okay.
Uh, So there's behavioral services at that age. There's supports for education and how to connect. Because a lot of times families are so used to, I'm supposed to mirror my child. They make eye contact with me and I show my emotions and they show their emotions. And that's how we connect little tiny humans to adults. But that's not always possible for our folks. Oftentimes the little humans are not responding, they don't make eye contact, it's not something comfortable. So these services would help to find other ways, like maybe we sing the theme song that they respond to on the television together. Just other ways. I won't go down the rabbit hole of all the different fun things that people use to connect, but there's other ways of connecting to our very little humans. But early intervention services are the goal to reach out to. Then there's 3 to 5. So your very first package, very accessible. There's lots of different early intervention services in the county. And I say county because it's all based on your county-wide availability. So people will go, I need this. And there's agencies all around you all the time. KenCrest is one of them, for which I am an employee, but I do not work in the birth to five services. My supervisor actually is very famous in this area, Roseanne Adamo. She is the be all end all of early intervention and has really changed the game. They even work with a lot of grant funding for families that need special devices. And that's huge for getting services for our little folks, because it's all about accessibility. What do we need to adapt? What do we need to buy? What do we need to create? 3 to 5 services are typically part of that early intervention package. They're just a separate realm. And then we hit 6 and the whole game changes because then we're in the school districts.
Mm.
Uh, do you have any folks that are at that age, that 6 age range in your life?
That are
Like a 6
disabled humans?
could be disabled, could be just your neuroconforming, able-bodied human. Do you have any like
I
kindergarten
do.
age people?
Yes, so I have 3 grandbabies. My youngest is 3. I know she's not in the age range that we're talking about, but then I have my amazing Cameron. He was my first grandbaby. So Cameron is autistic, high functioning autistic. And then I have Kaylee, who is so Cameron will be 8 in June, and then Kaylee, she just turned 6 or 7. I lost track, but I love my grandbabies. I'm with them all the time. But anyway, sorry, grandbabies. But Kaylee, yeah, she's the boss. Yeah, but yeah,
Okay.
Cameron will be 8. No, Kaylee's 7.
So you've got a couple of humans that just went through this big transition from home, maybe family, maybe friends, family
Mhm,
friends, to a whole school of other humans.
mhm,
This is terrifying for most folks. And for intellectually disabled and autistic kids, this is tremendously impactful because they lose their early intervention supports that they might have had since close to birth. So
mm,
that person that they've been connecting with is gone.
mhm,
Now they're in the school. This is extremely important right now for folks to be aware of because there's a number I want to put out there for folks. It's called 504. Sounds like an area code. Really, it's the 3-digit number that everybody's talking about in the field right now because they're trying to get rid of 504. What does 504 do for school districts? It gives access to IEPs and all the
mm,
specialized needs that kids in school have. And it doesn't have to be disability related. It can be just because of life experiences. So I have needs. The school district should help support those needs. So I get an
mhm,
IEP,
mhm,
individual educational plan, right? It just makes sense. We have certain services that people should have access to. A lot of times, though, school districts will write in something in an IEP and not have access to it in house.
mm,
Maybe it's speech language pathology, maybe it's behavioral supports, maybe it's to keep folks in the classroom because maybe they're like me and they need to move
right,
around a whole
right,
lot.
right. Yeah.
And that's okay. Where's the mini trampoline in the classroom? Where's
Mhm,
the
mhm,
bands on the back of the chair so I can bounce my feet, bounce my feet, bounce my feet?
mhm,
Somebody who's more well trained in what the needs are for sensory, or just having the educational challenges of timing. I know a lot of folks get very uneasy when there's the clock that they're working under. So maybe it's I need slightly longer for testing. Maybe it's I need someone to read me the questions because I audio process much better than I can read and take it in. So lots of adaptations to the school day, but also therapies like OT or PT or speech can be added into the day at school free of charge. It's part of your educational needs. And that starts at kindergarten. And most people don't think to access it until it's a much bigger issue and you start seeing grades slip and people start to wonder, I see that someone's not making any friends. Get an IEP in place from day one. It doesn't have to single out a student and make them feel othered as long as the school is integrating services in a way that makes sense for that person.
So it doesn't mean that they have to have a disability.
They just have to have documented needs and it has
Okay.
to impact their day. Um,
Okay.
there's people who have emotional support classrooms.
Mhm.
And you don't have to have a documented disability. You don't have to have a diagnosis of any kind to have emotional support needs. We all have
Mhm.
mental health needs, all of us. Does it affect our learning? Does it affect our school day? Where's our IEP to say that we have
Right.
time specifically in that classroom setting, or maybe with the school counselor or whomever? It's
Mhm.
there.
So
Access it.
it was like really unrealistic. I homeschooled my babies for like the first 4 years. I
Okay.
just think it's really unrealistic to ask a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old to just sit down, don't move, don't talk, and then, well, on my report card when I was in elementary school, like all the comments were, "Melanie talks too much." Yes, I'm like 6, I'm like 7. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'm gonna talk." So I just think some things are so unrealistic in school, and then if you don't fit inside that box where you could just sit down all day and, "Oh, don't talk to your neighbor. Oh, don't do this. Oh, don't oh, no, they play fight. Oh, he's aggressive." I mean, I just think a lot of this stuff is unrealistic.
It absolutely is. And I don't know if anyone else in the world experiences this, but I've watched from my office window sometimes, I'll watch the kids going to school and I'll just be like, I'm sorry. Like you can just see it in their bodies. Their book bags are like this, looking at them. Like, that does not look like fun. I remember that not being fun. So
Yeah,
I'm
I hated
sorry.
school. Well, my mom worked in my elementary school, so that wasn't too bad. And but junior high and high, it was the pits. So, but go ahead. So the next age group.
Okay. So here's my little asterisk moment. Typically, and this is Autumn talking. Typically in school districts, when we think about behavioral supports, a lot of folks think about ABA. So I'm going to go off on a tiny tangent. I promise I will keep it short, but it has to be said. Applied behavioral analysis looks at behavior modification, change the way someone reacts or responds. It's getting better as a field. It really is. It's trying to be more trauma informed. But the foundation of ABA is about changing those internal instincts to something that does not feel authentic. What we want to do is look at the behavioral health underlying needs, really take that trauma informed, like Sherlockian, I always put the Sherlock hat on approach and dig a little deeper. What's going on? Why is this kid so uneasy? Is it the buzzing lights? Is it the sound of a white noise machine? Is it what's going on sensory wise? And just the space itself. Do the kids have all these different smells? One smells like marshmallows because they always have 5 in their pocket. One smells like jasmine perfume and it reminds them of their favorite, I don't know, person in their family. And they're like, oh, I miss that person. Whatever it is,
Hmm.
get dig deeper, right? And to try to understand it and change the environment, not by changing the other kids or making them change, but adapting it. Like maybe you have a little aromatherapy at that kid's table. Maybe you have noise canceling headphones to help this kid focus. There's a way to do behavioral supports that is supportive without changing the person from someone who is super neurodivergent. And thankfully, I did not have someone tell me I had to stop being my quirky self. but I also had the privilege of being very high testing on all test scores. So, of course, schools are, let's be real, nicer to the kids that give them high
Mhm.
test scores than they
Right.
are to the ones that don't.
That's
So,
true.
I got away with a lot of weird because I had a lot of the magic
Mm,
brain power they were looking for. And that's a privilege that I own and hold and like, okay, so that's what I know about being a high test score taker, etc.
mhm, mhm.
Versus kids that aren't as great with the test taking and need that support, and then they're probably considered problem kids.
That was me. Well, I wasn't a problem kid, but I was a horrible test taker. I hate tests. You know what I mean? I wasn't necessarily like, a problem. Did I do simple stuff as a teen? Yeah, I did. But yeah, I was a horrible test taker.
And
Horrible.
everybody probably hated me because I timed myself. If it took me longer than 60 seconds to finish a quiz and slam it down upside down on my desk, then I had anxiety after the fact because it
Right.
was an internal game, right?
Mm, yeah.
And the kids were
Wow.
probably like, "What the hell is wrong with that woman?"
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's something.
Oh, it is what it is, and we all learn and we all live and grow.
Hmm. Yeah.
The the reason I bring up the ABA services and the behavioral services is that oftentimes, if someone is experiencing challenges in the classroom, focus challenges especially, they put in a token economy. This many stickers and you can get um, a lollipop, or this many stickers and you can go on a field trip, or something like you earn something. I'll be really honest. If I drive to work, if I go somewhere and I have not run any red lights, done any like magical speeding scary things, or hurt anybody in the process, nobody got hit at the intersections, nobody shows up with a Starbucks for me. And it's very
Right.
disappointing. Like I don't get anything for following the rules.
Right.
So the motivator in life, in adulthood, is not that somebody shows up with something. So if we're talking about services, transitioning beyond that school world, right? We have to
Mhm.
start transitioning off of any sort of token economy before we even hit double digits of an
Mm.
age. So that's my little asterisk offshoot piece. Like if we're going to get anywhere in life, we have to take away the cookie system because nobody shows up with a cookie every time we do
Right.
anything good.
Right.
Services for folks that are reaching that transition age 17, 18, where we normally see a graduation happening in high school. There
Mhm.
are extended school plans for disabled students. You can stay in school until the age of, I always used to say 21, but it
Okay.
really the cutoff is like 22, like right before 22. And then you have
Okay.
to graduate. And that doesn't have to happen right at the end of a school year. Sometimes it happens in the midst of a year. Those extended school plans can give you access to job prep services. You can get into programs where you can get more of those therapies, OT, PT, speech for an extended number of years. Then you also have access to some services that have been solely for adults. You can start exploring your MHIDD county office, mental health, intellectual and developmental disability county office. There's one in every county. Now, somebody's going to come back and go, there's none in my county. You might have to go one county over. I'm so sorry. But I'm pretty sure there's one in most counties in PA. I'll put that most. Um, those offices are specifically there to start the conversations of transitioning to adult services. And these
Mhm.
conversations should start even before 18, but now they're happening at 18, where we're getting a supports coordinator. Now, that sounds lovely, right? Somebody to coordinate large swaths of your life. And
Right.
I think we all need one of those. It's like a case manager. Um, if you say, I had this in school, I need this as an adult, they
Mm,
start making referrals.
okay.
You have access to it. It's not an easy process because just because you have access to it and you qualify for something doesn't mean that you're immediately going to get that service exactly where you want it, exactly how you want it, and with exactly the kind of person you want to work with. That really is the luck of the draw on where you are and what you need. But thanks to COVID, and there aren't many things that I can say thanks to COVID, we have lovely options like this where we can
Mhm.
do telehealth services for folks. Um, and it makes all the difference. So, a lot of those areas where there's not access right there, services can be provided through telehealth means. And it might mean getting a little creative on how to support that person, but it's
Mhm.
possible. It's possible. Can I actually go back to the school age and talk a little bit about what happens after school hours end?
Yes.
Okay. Now, here's where it gets tricky. There's no school to pay for services once the school day ends.
Mm,
There's no waiver to pay for services when the school day ends when you're 6 to 21. There is, however, insurance. Check thy insurance policy. I love to say that phrase to my families that give me these calls. Like, I've got this 13-year-old, they desperately need your services. I only have two options for payment right now. It's private pay or out of pocket, and waiver payments. My agency where I work full time. That is most of the agencies in PA do waiver funding or private pay. Some also take insurance. And this is where you really want to fight. Because oftentimes it's either Medicare or Medicaid, or it's through a parent's insurance policy. If the kid is still on the parent's insurance policy, you have to call your policy folks directly to get an idea of what services are available and what qualifications those folks need, because that's your golden ticket. And there's no standard way of doing it. You just have to call and ask. Some of them will have BSC, behavior support consultant, or behavior support, something like that role, and a mobile therapist available. And that will help provide some behavioral health support needs. Now, ideally, those folks are not using more of that modification strategy. They're using more of the trauma informed mentality. But you never know until you try having some of those conversations. I always say set up an initial conversation with any agency that you're considering. Oftentimes, insurance will cover speech, OT, and PT even after school hours because you aren't
mm,
using your insurance policy during the school day. You
okay.
want to do though. Get the list of goals that they're working on during the school day. Use that. Then take your insurance policy, find which agencies qualify, and go to the agency and say, so I know that this is what they're working on there to save time, because usually those number of sessions are limited every year. Like it's like 8, 12. It's some absurd low number, right? You have a fast track, essentially. They still have to do their evaluations, but you at least have a place where they can start, save you some time, save you some sweat, and you start that process after hours as well. The mobile therapists can come into the homes. There are some OT or PT or speech folks that will come into the homes to provide services. It's rarer, especially because we're looking for more therapists in the field in general, just like most specialized professions, from contractors to nurses. We need more of them. So if you're looking for what to specialize in your degree program, look at any of the therapies folks need. You have guaranteed professional security. Um, it's one of those things that is so underutilized, the after school availability through the insurance plans, Medicare and Medicaid, they're not great coverage, they're not great pay. They still have accessible spaces and places for families to go when they are struggle busing, because sometimes folks feel helpless and don't know where to go and don't know what to do.
Dr. Autumn, in wrapping up, what if someone needs services as an adult, legal services? Is there legal services that are available to them?
Legal services, you mean like for fighting the system?
Right. I'll give you a real quick example. So, say there's an adopted child, and
Mhm.
they're living with, say, an aunt and uncle, and both of the aunt and uncle pass away at the same time. But then this child, will they be entitled to the house? Will they be entitled to the property? Will they be entitled to the car? How can they get legal help? Do they go through like CBH?
So I would honestly say your best bet is to start setting up a trust. And there's a trust called the ABLE trust for a lot of folks planning ahead. And it really clearly delineates what funds are going to be available to that person, how they're going to be divvied up, who's going to be in charge of helping that person pay the bills. Is the house going in the trust? Is the car going in the trust? I have a lot of folks that drive that couldn't afford a car on their own because their work just doesn't pay enough, right? So there's lots of ways through the ABLE account that you can and you would need a lawyer. There's lots of able lawyers. All you have to do is look up the able trust, and there's a lot of correlations of who's going to support you in that discussion. But supports coordinators also through those MHIDD offices have access to resource sheets on who they trust to do that work. Haha, trust to do the trust. But it really is all about planning ahead, and if there's no fees or services involved in the transition of helping somebody get to that point where they are using this money to support them ongoing, then great for it. If folks are very low income and they qualify for a waiver, that's when all those other specialized adult services, like me at Kencrest, who could help in clinical services, and many other agencies provide those supports, and it would offer somebody that ongoing support structure, anything from getting community participation supports, like I need somebody to help me grocery shop and meal plan and go out into the community to go to. I have a lot of folks that need assistance in church or temple or mosque and need support there. Once they're in there, once they're doing the things, they're fine, but they need somebody to get them there to help them transition from not going there to going there. It's
Right.
just the little things in life. All those adult services, if folks qualify, are supported through those waivers that are specifically through ODP, the Office of Departmental Programs. And for those who don't qualify for the ODP waiver, there are other waivers out there. There are so many. Maybe your person qualifies for, which is why you get hooked up to the MHIDD office to help figure out what is available, what does this person qualify for, and what can we get them so that they can, age in home effectively. Because I have a lot of elder parents. The parents are in their 80s or 90s, and their disabled child is in their 50s or 60s. And they're just trying to make sure that this person can stay in this home that they know how to navigate safely
Right. Right.
and not have to go into a facility, which is the last thing we want.
Thank you so much for joining me today. This was great, great information. I really appreciate you.
I hope the future brings everyone happiness.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope all of this information helped you or a family member out in such a tremendous way. Peace and love.